like to think of my classroom as a blank canvas. And so you'll see that this is like the end product after we've done the launch. And the way that I organize my driving question board is by color. So each of my class sections gets one particular color sticky note. I use that for the entire year. And then after sticky notes get placed on the board during a planning period or after school, we'll actually take those sticky notes and reorganize them between all of my sections so that they fit into categories that I actually create. And so I do always type up our investigation ideas that kids come up with. I make that visible, I keep that up, but this is also a digital document that's added to my LMS, my school. I use Google Classroom, but that's a document that we can refer to, and it's a pretty sweet tool because then there's times where I'm like, okay, let's come back to it. Like, what have we done? And I want students to know that their ideas are being honored. And as you go through the storyline and be like, oh, where are we gonna do this? It's really great for you to see like, oh yeah, kids really do want to try the bath bomb in a closed system, or they really want to think about a related phenomena like elephant's toothpaste, for example. So one of the things that is true about my classroom is it's very awkwardly shaped, and I find that I cannot take all these myriad numbers of posters and like put them on my walls. I don't have wall space, I can't do it. So I take a picture and I add it to Google Classroom, but then I also make copies and post them here, and they stay here, as well as giving students copies. So I don't have the wall space for all of it, but kids still have access to it in their notebooks and through our digital platform. I'll then put an arrow, and then it will morph into how our models go over time. And those are also given as copies to students. After coming up with the related phenomena for a couple of classes, like these are just Google Images searches that match our list we built together as a class. And so you'll even see footage where kids, they couldn't come up with their own related phenomena. That's a hard skill. And so I'm like, just go check them out, see if anything is of interest to you. And they're like, oh, that's what they meant. Like they might not have the words for those things. So it's a good visual for me too, as I'm teaching, to be like, this is not just about whatever our unit is, in this case, bath bombs. So I am a teacher that teaches 2 preps. I teach 2 sections of 7th grade and 4 sections of 6th. So I have tried to designate classroom space for, hey, this is all about 6th grade over here, 4 sections, much larger. And then if you come around, this is where, this is my 7th grade driving question board. So just a fraction of the students, because I only have 2 sections, but kind of the same thing. I've split it instead of horizontally, like in my space over there, I've now done it vertically. And so in this case here, these are my period 2 questions, and these are my period 3 questions. But I would just like to share with you, you can kind of tell that there's multiple colors of stickies, but you may be asking why, wait, you just said you had 2 questions. So I've tried to get kids to realize that the asking questions practice is not just when we build the DQB, but there's many times as we figure out science ideas, their questions not are just answered, but then they become more complex. And so here, just trying this strategy out that I learned from another teacher, like our original questions are in green, but then as we figured out new questions, or we asked questions, you could see this is actually from like the entire table. So I forced questions upon a table group, and so we've added new questions at this point. Like pink was like the next round of questions, and then orange was the next round of questions. And you can actually tell down here, I didn't get to this section. My 3rd period classes, I think got 6 or 7 more students in it, so like we don't always get to that. So you can just see here, there's more questions here than here, but the great news is I also get kids to realize that even though you're in my period 2 class versus my period 3 class, we can still work towards using questions from another class period that can still drive us. Because collectively, you're my period 2, but you're still part of all of 7th grade, which is good for kids to realize. The models that I reference a lot, I try to keep up like big and center, because those contain ideas that maybe have a prior like conception that kids have, and like we rule it out and then we move on to the next one. But if I'm gonna reference it a lot, I'm gonna hang it kind of front and center for that. But I also do make sure that I teach kids how to use their notebooks, where it's like, okay, go to your models page, find your initial model, or find like our class consensus model, or look at our most recent model, like what did we say was happening, as a way for them to have access to it too. Since I have multiple sections, the models are pretty close usually, and so I just tend to put one up. Like you'll actually see here that even though I teach 2 7th grade classes, like, hey, I put periods 3 model version here, but I put period 2's model version here. And the other two are hanging in my classroom. They're just in a really weird spot that I just don't have as great access to, but they're like, oh, period 3 and period 2, they're pretty close. There might be some differences, but kids are okay with that. Because my driving question board is like kind of behind these weird corners, and I teach a lot of students who are learning English, I decided to put words that we earn for each word. So I know that, for example, in this is 7th grade. In 7th grade, I am able to go through all 6 life science units, but I put each title up, and then as we kind of earn a word, I'll throw it up there. So I'm actually currently in the genetics unit, and we just finished Punnett squares today. So the last word that's up on my list is probability, and so that gets thrown up there. This is for our last unit of the year. It's blank, so I will add that. And then this is kind of the progression of our units in 6th grade. So those words are accessible.